It's the biggest regular season NFL game ever coming up this Sunday. Welcome to Buffalo End Zone Podcast, everybody. A little tongue-in-cheek there, Andy. I'm Kevin Carroll, Andy Young, with us as always.
Never one for hyperbole from Kevin Carroll, right?
Oh my! It's must-see TV. This is big.
This
is so big, Andy. I went to get my dog's nails trimmed, and the two people at the front desk, as soon as I walked in, saw me and went, "You're going to be so excited about this game. This is the biggest game ever." And this was on a Tuesday. The game's on a Sunday. Want to talk Bills Chiefs nonstop while my dog yelps in the background while she's getting her nails done.
I'm impressed that two people knew who you were.
I was too. I got to be honest with you. I didn't even have any of my work stuff on.
That's great. Yeah, this is a huge game, and there's been some debate over the last week or so as leading into this game. Has it lost some of its luster here in Western New York? Because nationally, everybody still thinks Bills Chiefs, 13 seconds, playoffs, all these things that have happened between these two teams. Mahomes versus Allen, Andy Reid versus his former understudy, Sean McDermott. Can the Bills ever get over the hump against this team? The top of the AFC on the line potentially down the road if the Bills get a win here. The Chiefs almost can run away with it, the 1 seed, if they win. But here in Western New York, where we're based, some people are kind of like, I don't know. It's Bills Chiefs again. We've beaten them 3 straight years in the regular season. Wake me up when we beat them in January. And that's kind of the mantra the Bills have had too, I think, going into this.
Well, I agree with that, Andy, but and eventually I want to get into this is look at the remaining schedule after this game because like you just said, there's 2 trains of thought on here that the Bills are the last big test for the Chiefs on their schedule. They could basically put things to bed. I disagree with that coming into the back half of the Chiefs' schedule. And you look at what the Bills have left on the plate and what the Chiefs have left on the plate, that I'm not going to say the Bills must win this game. You're sitting at 2 losses right now. This is the best record you've had since Jim Kelly and company were around, or the best start to a season. The CBS, who has the game and moved every other NFL game out of the 4 o'clock window so the world could sit here and watch Bills Chiefs. But this is just the 5th time in 54 years that 2 teams with 8 or more wins are meeting this late in the season. That's some of the hype nationally, but here it is who cares. The Bills have done this, but the Bills a year ago had to win to get their season back on track. This year, that's not there. The Bills had been on the road playing at Arrowhead. This year, it's here. So there's a lot going into this game that makes me think the hype should be where the hype is, even locally, because you hear too many, you don't want to win during the regular season and lose in the playoffs, but screw that. You want to win during the regular season. It's the Chiefs. What do you think that Josh Allen and the Bills are just going to run out of steam? Like, hey, we beat the Chiefs again in the regular season. We're good to go now. I just think you're close enough that this means a lot, and you should want to go for that number 1 seed.
I don't want to rail on any fan who thinks one way or the other.
I do today. I'm in a bad mood.
They're really excited about this game and pumped up, and it's the Chiefs, and it's potentially inching closer to getting the number 1 seed in the AFC, handing an undefeated team its first loss, and one that's basically your biggest rival at this point. But for the fans who kind of are in this place of like, I don't care, wake me up in January.
Right.
That's kind of a sad place to live in, isn't it? That,
I think so.
Nothing matters. You don't enjoy anything that happens during the course of the season because all you care about is the Bills winning the Super Bowl, and that's the only thing that'll make you happy at this point. That's a tough way to live life as a fan or anything because you got to stop and smell the roses. Enjoy this Bills team right now. It's fun. It's a big game. People are hyped for it. Even if Josh Allen and Sean McDermott downplay the hell out of this game, as they're known to do, it's a huge game. There's a lot on the line here. The Bills can pull within 1 game of the lead in the AFC, and the Chiefs have a couple of losable games down the stretch. So
I agree with you 100%.
If the Bills are somehow able to run the table, which is remarkable, they've got some tough matchups ahead. And we'll get into that, but there's a lot going on here, and it's not like you're going to pack up the tent and not play if you're the Bills because, we haven't beaten them in January. We'll see you then. No, you play this game. You go out and you win it. You give it your all. The players and the team certainly aren't going to be like, we don't care. But I do see why some segment of fans has gotten to that spot because the Bills are still in a good place even if they lose this game. Yeah, they didn't beat the Chiefs, and yeah, they're probably not going to get the 1 seed, but they still probably have the division locked up and a top 2 or 3 seed in the next few weeks.
Now, as I do, I tend to straddle the fence on some of these things. I will say this when it comes to this game. To me, if there's a player that's questionable on whether – don't force them out there. Now,
are we talking about Amari Cooper?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
And – we talked about this last week. I think that you can see under his glove he has something.
He has a cast on.
There.
Yes.
It is a cast. Okay.
We saw it again today.
That.
Yes.
Don't need it. I'm not saying, hey, you went out there and beat the Colts without him and without Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid got injured and you should be fine. I'm not saying that. But again, if you could somehow manage to pull it off without those guys out there. And, I mean, wouldn't that give you a better feeling that, oh, by the way, maybe in January when we have a healthy Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman, Matt Milano hopefully back in the mix, Dalton Kincaid back in the mix. I got something I'll add about Kincaid a little bit later on when we get into what's going on the injury front, Andy. Wouldn't a win with this current Bills roster, if worst case scenario, none of those guys can play and you're competitive or you win the game, that you would have better confidence, either if the game's at Arrowhead or here in Buffalo, if it's in the divisional round or the AFC Championship?
I don't think this Bills team is going to approach this game any different than they would any other game. So if someone like Amari Cooper, who was questionable last week, who is still banged up, limited in practice, in a walkthrough on Wednesday here as we record, is ready to play, they'll play him. If he's not, they won't. I think they're kind of cautious like that. I don't think they're putting too much stock in this. They understand what's at stake. They know that it's a big game as far as the seedings and their arrival and the fans and all that sort of stuff, but they're just going to play it as they kind of play it. Yeah, in the back of their head, some guys might get more hyped up about the Chiefs or whatever, but the messaging from the top, which is to me Allen and McDermott, is this is week 11. It's the next game on our schedule, and it has to be that way. I mean, they've had confidence from beating the Chiefs 3 years in a row and haven't gotten it done in the postseason.
Right.
So really, what difference does that make? I think they're just playing the game as they normally would. I think fans, rightfully or wrongfully, either fired up or not, and it is what it is, right? Like, it's a big game. It's a huge game. It's the Chiefs. It's going to be Taylor Swift and all that fun stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe Haley Steinfeld. We'll see.
Oh.
Dueling quarterback girlfriends.
Celebrity gossip with Andy Young.
Dueling celebrity tight end girlfriend, quarterbacks, all that stuff. Yeah.
8th time now.
Maybe Jason Kelsey shows up and takes his shirt off again.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's almost a guarantee, I'm saying. That's my lock of the weekend. 8th time, Allen versus Mahomes over the last 5 seasons. That's now tied with Brady and Manning.
That's an awesome stat, isn't it?
I love that because if you go back to Brady Manning, how many people in Bill's Mafia were like, enough of this crap about Brady Manning? Now you have your guy in one of those scenarios.
But he's Manning.
And, oh, by the way,
your guy's Manning.
Manning eventually, though, overcame him.
He did. Right.
He had to go to a different team, but we won't.
Well, no, he won one with the Colts.
I know, but
they came back from, 21 points down in an AFC championship game against the Patriots?
I don't know. I was down in Bemis Point.
Doing what? Not watching the game?
Let's just say the end of the game was kind of foggy back there in 2005, I think.
5 to 6, yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
But I just think that stuff is super cool, Andy, that you have the game. You have the quarterback matchup, and you can say Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, but give me a break. I mean, I know we're in Western New York and we cover the Bills, but I still think no matter where you are, this Allen Mahomes thing is just that much bigger.
I mean, to me, it's a reasonable comparison to say this is Brady Manning. And like the Patriots did for all those years, 4, 5, 6 years, they beat the Colts and won 3 out of 4 years in the Super Bowl. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then finally, Manning's team got over the hump.
Yep.
And then Brady won a bunch more eventually.
Right.
Manning won one more on his last leg and
went to 2, won 1.
His defense carried the load to one of them. And
yeah.
But I mean, good Lord, if you're a Bills fan and Josh Allen wins you 1 freaking Super Bowl, you're taking that, I mean, all day, right? I mean, he's already probably the greatest player in franchise history.
You're taking that now, but Josh Allen wins 1 Super Bowl, then
you want more.
Not enough.
Right.
Well, Mahomes has these many, Brady has these many.
Right.
So then it kind of builds off of that, Andy. But when we talk about this game, and I'll get into this now, the schedules coming down the stretch for both of these teams. So we know this is a tough game. Bills 49 is a tough game. Bills Lions, a real tough game. We were thinking Bills Rams maybe, but after the Rams' performance against the Dolphins the other night.
But you're still going out on the West Coast, and they're a well-coached team with some players.
Right.
For sure.
Then you have the Patriots 2 times and the Jets, and
you would hope if you're the Bills that's 3 wins. You would predict
hope.
that.
I still said at the beginning of the season that I just see the Bills tripping up in one of those. So that adds to the importance of this, that, you know, they beat the Chiefs. They beat the 49ers. You struggle against the Lions. The Chiefs keep winning, but now they're coming down their stretch. Andy.
Carolina
win. Las Vegas.
They give them a tough time sometimes.
Las Vegas, that's a rivalry.
Right.
So I know that it's not what it used to be, but it wouldn't shock me if there was a major upset there. You know, I think that game's it's at 3:00.
It's a Friday game.
Friday
That's
the 29th.
That's the Black Friday game.
Oh my God, I keep thinking Thanksgiving's next week. I'm way ahead of myself right now. Okay.
You looking for that stuffing already?
I love that. Oyster stuffing my mom makes with the gravy. Chargers game. Chargers are looking good right now.
Chargers could beat them.
Cleveland, no. Houston, that could still be a game.
Pittsburgh.
And then you have the Pittsburgh game on Christmas. And you and I bagged on the Steelers a lot early in the season.
I still will.
But they look dangerous right now. Russell Wilson looks, maybe he was just in the wrong spot in Denver.
Well, that's clear. His head coach in Denver just didn't really want him.
Right. So there's losses that could be out there for the Chiefs.
Well, and they play Denver Week 18, who should have already handed them their first loss. So there's some losses potentially out there. I don't see this team going undefeated through the regular season.
I don't either.
They're going to pick up a couple losses. So is that the Bills? And then is that one of the Chargers, the Texans, Steelers, Broncos? I mean, there's some losses out there. But the Bills are going to have to be a game ahead of them, basically, from here on out,
right?
Including a win against them to get there because they're 2 ahead right now.
And it's not the end-all, be-all if they end up the 2 seed in my mind, but
the Bills haven't had the 1 seed through this stretch with McDermott and Allen. I'd like to see what they do with that.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't have to go on the road at all. And to me, the bye week is huge. Like, yeah, we've seen teams, as in Kansas City last year, go through and win, but that just is such an advantage to not have to play that first week and not have to play a wild card team that in this year could be a dangerous team. It could be the Steelers. It could be the Bengals who are making a push, and if they somehow get in, are very dangerous. It could be the Chargers, right, if you're playing them in a wild card game. So to avoid that, it's a lot easier to win 2 than it is 3.
Right. I think it's a big game. I think it's a winnable game, like 9-0. Okay, that we've seen better undefeated teams like that have been more impressive.
Horseshoe up the ass, man. Like you
seen-
said it last week.
So here's what I did, because we have a station out in Kansas City.
Yep.
So I was going through the Kansas City video archives, or whatever we want to call them. I don't want to use insider feeds or anything like that.
Yep.
But and I'm like, okay, let me find a couple of Patrick Mahomes touchdown passes, because it's easier. Man, I was going through every single Chiefs win,
There aren't a ton.
struggling to find a couple of Patrick Mahomes touchdown passes. They're all short. Well, most of them are short. There's a couple of long ones.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce, 2 times in the end zone so far. It just didn't light it up, Andy, and it was hard to find what I was looking for, which led me to say, this isn't a dominant 9-0 team. This is an undefeated team for sure, but this isn't like when you go back to 2007 and the Patriots were hanging 50 on everybody. This is a team that's winning 26-25, 22-17, 17-10, 28-18, 27-20, 30-24 in overtime to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, this is not a dominant team in terms of they're going to destroy you. They're just a team that has Patrick Mahomes, that has Andy Reid, that has Travis Kelce, that has a great defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo and very good players on defense, that just knows how to win, that doesn't crumble under the pressure, that a deficit in the fourth quarter doesn't scare them. Trying to grind out a game in the fourth quarter doesn't scare them. Sean McDermott said it during his weekly press conference on Wednesday. They're just poised, and some of that comes from doing it. They've been through those grinds. They've come back to win in Super Bowls. They've faced difficulties in big games and come out on top. Nothing bothers them. They don't sweat it. Mahomes, despite his struggles this season, just finds a way to make the big play, whether that's that scramble for a key third down, whether it's, I'm going to flip the ball out and get it to the right guy at just the right time to make the big play in a 17-14 kind of game to either bring your team back or to hold on to a lead. They're not afraid of that. They play in the muck this year, and really to a degree they did it last year too.
Right.
This is kind of just an extension of that, and they've learned to win, and until somebody knocks them off, I mean, they're the gold standard. But no, they are not playing this beautiful 50-touchdown Patrick Mahomes MVP brand of football that we saw a few years ago.
If they come in and beat the Bills, let's say by 2 scores.
No chance that's happening.
But let's just say it happens.
Okay.
Does the outlook with Bills Mafia change at all? I mean, the Bills with Josh Allen have been known to have just a bad game.
But they already had their one bad game, right?
Well, I mean, that's against the Ravens.
They
just
don't
don't
the
match
Bills
up
don't,
well.
Yeah, but the Bills don't get blown out.
Right.
Between the Ravens game and that Colts game 3 years ago, they hadn't lost a game by more than a score.
Right.
So to me, that's them losing by multiple scores.
What if it happens?
Well, yeah, the people. I mean, we're talking about Bills fans here and
Right.
Bills media. People are going to panic and say, "Oh my God!" Even if half the people this week are saying, doesn't matter what happens, get me to January, wake me up when
I
December
guess that's
ends.
what I'm getting at.
Right.
Those fans that are like, if we lose, no big deal. I'd rather beat them in the playoffs.
If they get destroyed.
But what if you don't look good in the loss?
Here's the way.
Or even worse, what if Patrick Mahomes gets a call?
Well, yeah. I mean, all these things are going to happen. So there's a couple scenarios. They get destroyed by them for some reason. That won't be a great look.
Right.
Or, like, McDermott makes a bad decision at the end of a game. It costs them.
Yeah.
Or some sort of miracle play happens again.
Right.
People are going to be, oh, my God. That's going to happen regardless. We've talked ourselves in and out of this so many times in this half hour we've been on the air that it's interesting, but they're going to be okay because they're still going to win the division
Right.
in all likelihood, and all those short of a collapse or catastrophic injury. So there'll be that segment of people that's like, oh, my God, the Chiefs again. They can't beat them, whatever. But then there's also the segment of people that says, it's just the regular season. So that's kind of where we've cycled all the way back to this. I don't see them losing by multiple scores, though.
Okay, so we'll get into the matchup then, right? Just looking at some of the numbers right now. Mahomes over 2,000 yards passing, 12 TDs. Allen over 22 is 17 touchdown passes. You look at Travis Kelce, under 500 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. Khalil Shakir leads the Bills. He only has 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt, under 500 yards, 5 TDs. James Cook, over 500, 8 TDs. That's how the offenses look when you compare them to each other going into this game. And in each category, it's advantage Bills on the offensive side of the ball.
If you're looking, and this is a rudimentary, probably the crudest stat, but in terms of like yards per game, the Chiefs actually, they're basically the same. The Chiefs average 3 more yards than them.
Yeah.
And they're both sort of middle third in that regard. So, either offense yardage-wise is putting up a ton. Bills are putting up a lot more points, though. Bills are averaging 29 points a game, Chiefs only 24. So that's the big difference there, that the Bills seemingly are cashing in. The one thing that's happened with the Chiefs, I think, is they're not winning through explosive plays. It's Mahomes surgically, slowly, methodically moving the ball up and down the field. To a degree, what's happened to the Bills, too.
Yeah.
It always seems like the Bills are like a year or two behind doing what the Chiefs have done. So it's just interesting. So they kind of follow each other in that way.
Yeah.
Offensively, neither team has been like crazy good or explosive. It's just differences in efficiencies. I think the Bills might be a little bit more efficient. I like the Bills' running game a little better.
Right.
For sure.
And, like, defensively, Chiefs allowing 17.9 points per game, the Bills 19.3.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty close as well. Advantage Chiefs there, but, again, they haven't gone up against the Bills. The Bills are a completely different animal. That's why they're 8-2.
Right. The Bills in the regular season meetings, these two teams have kind of limited each other. They've been a little bit more low scoring than some of the playoff games. Like you look last year was 20-17 Bills in the regular season. The year before that was 24-20 Bills in the regular season. Of course, you had 13 seconds, which was fireworks at the end. Bills blew them out in 21 in the regular season. And then you get back to, some of those regulars. You get back to the AFC Championship game, which was a blowout basically for KC. And they beat them pretty handily in 20 as well.
X Factor, Dawson Knox. I'm telling you right now, Andy, I've been confused. I said this early. I said this last year when they got Dalton Kincaid, that Allen has such a rapport with Dawson Knox. It almost seems like he is the guy who actually is successful at doing what you think Dalton Kincaid should be. He was doing it before Dalton Kincaid got there. When he's rarely this season, while Kincaid's healthy, called on, he delivers. I always liked him.
Mm-hmm.
The Dalton Kincaid thing, I don't want to say bugged me, because there was visions of these 2 tight ends that were out there in pass routes that would cause problems. I still think that's a possibility, but I don't think there's that big of a drop-off if Dalton Kincaid doesn't play. Okay, this is going to sound mean, but Dalton Kincaid reminds me of, like, in a movie where you have the hero who's good, but then they decide to bring someone that they think is better than him in, and it just doesn't click the same. And the end of the movie is Dawson Knox wins the Super Bowl for the Bills with a catch in the end zone. That's the end of the movie.
The problem is that they really kind of play 2 different positions and 2 different roles.
I understand that.
I know, but so you're not going to see typically a whole lot of Dalton Kincaid inline blocking tight end.
Right.
So the roles are different and the usage is different. However, I do agree that Dawson Knox is still a very serviceable player. He has been good for Josh Allen many times.
Yeah.
He used to deal with the drops and those sorts of things at times in his career, but he's made some big plays. I actually was just looking through some video of when Dawson Knox scored a touchdown against the Chiefs a few years ago on a nice little play. So he certainly could be an X factor in this game. If you're looking at Kincaid probably being out or maybe being out, and if Cooper is still out, they've got to rely on somebody. They're not going to have Keon Coleman, so then it's Shakir, it's Knox, it's little Matt Collins action again.
I'm fine with that.
And you go with the running game, right?
Right.
Maybe a little Curtis Samuel too, but I think there's more in Dawson Knox still.
Yeah,
like we've seen him do it. He just got relegated to a different role because they had a half a wide receiver, half tight end in Kincaid.
No, and I get that, but I don't know. It just seems like Allen is.
Well, we saw that beautiful connection against the Colts. They had a really nice play together.
Has had such a rapport with Dawson Knox that give me more. We want more. We want more.
How do you feel about the Bills' weapons if Coleman, who we know will not play, and Cooper are down? How do you think that then they match up with that Chiefs defense if they're that limited at outside receiver?
So the Chiefs defense doesn't allow many yards. I like the idea of a quicker passing game and slowly moving the ball down the field with what you have. I still don't trust Curtis Samuel. I just don't.
Well, he's one time he showed it. He had, 3 catches last week?
Right. So you're looking at Khalil Shakir, a lot of trust in him. Like I said, a lot of trust in Dawson Knox. If Kincaid's out there too. Matt Collins, I've completely come around on over the last 2 games or so. But if they can, and I think we thought they were going to do this more against the Colts, establish the run game a bit more in this one against the Chiefs.
Who are tough to run against.
Right. But if they're able to do it, I think the Bills should be okay in this one, even if those guys aren't out there on the field. I think they can move the ball.
Yeah.
Joe Brady needs to have a really good game plan for this.
I mean, they're only giving up 83 yards rushing per game. I mean, that's low. Right? The Bills give up 123, so you're talking about 40 yards a game difference in rushing yards per game. If they can establish that, that's great because that's going to help them.
Right.
I think there's some things to be had at times against the Chiefs secondary, but it still makes me nervous when the chips are down against a good defense and Spags is bringing blitzes from all over.
Right.
Does Josh have the guy to go to in that situation? It's probably got to be Shakir.
I was going to say, with Amari Cooper not out there playing, it would have to be Shakir.
Yeah. How about the other side of the matchup with the Bills' defense against the Chiefs?
I get concerned with this bend but don't break defense we've seen against lesser quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That with Patrick Mahomes in there, you're not going to be able to do that. Patrick Mahomes isn't throwing an interception in the red zone, isn't fumbling a ball in the end zone, isn't doing anything stupid. So if they're able to move the ball down there, I expect the Chiefs to finish with touchdowns, not field goals. So it's up to the defense to stop that.
But they haven't been doing that. I mean, Mahomes has 9 picks this year.
Yeah, I understand that, but we're talking about the Bills' defense, though.
You're thinking they're
like the Bills' defense against lesser quarterbacks. They move the ball on them, and then the Bills end up holding up.
Right.
I think with the magnitude of this game,
here's another question for you.
Hold on, I'm on the Chiefs schedule.
Go
That's
ahead.
why I'm screwing myself
We'll
up.
finish this topic. We'll get to another one. I've got another question for you.
I mean, given they beat Tennessee 34-10, Tennessee moved the ball at times. The Seahawks moved the ball at times and shot themselves in the foot constantly. So I don't know. I mean, I look at the game as a whole, and I just think that this is ripe for the taking for the Bills.
Does Josh Allen, back to the offense, he runs more often against the Chiefs than almost anybody.
He's going to have to.
Is this a game we're going to see that again?
I think
Do they
so, yeah.
break it out in the regular season? This goes back to how big of a game is this? How much do they care, right? Do they pound Allen the way they have with designed runs and things like that, which have been very successful against the Chiefs over the years?
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
You know, I looked at that run by Allen at the end of the Colts game to get the first down from near their end
He's
zone.
just warming up, buddy.
And then he slid. And the whole time I'm like, I think he could have got to the end zone. Like if that was a different scenario and he just put it into third gear, I think he could have pulled away. Smart move to slide there and just keep clock running and burning stuff down. But
I think in a game like this, he senses it. He senses the moment really well. That's one thing about Allen. Mahomes does it too.
Mm-hmm.
When they need a big play in the third quarter and it's been tough and they can't get James Cook going and they need a first down run and it's 3rd and 7 at midfield in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes left, you're going to see that quarterback power, right?
Oh, yeah.
That they love to run.
Yep.
Those are the plays where Josh hurdles a guy or plows through somebody into the end zone. So I think we'll probably see some of that, and some of it may be by design. Some of it may be just Allen kind of sensing the moment and the magnitude.
That's where I'm leaning towards. Less design run, more of Allen, like, I don't want to say unsure of what he's seeing downfield, but knowing that rather than take a chance here, I see the sticks. I'm getting there.
By the way, shout out to Taron Johnson, AFC Defensive Player of the Week.
That's true.
Dude, he's so good. He is so good. He is incredible at what he does.
I'd say he's the best in the league.
I mean, McDuffie's really good. There's some other guys. The Colts guy, Kenny Moore, I think is really good at nickel cornerback. But, I mean, Taron Johnson is truly an incredible player. And I don't think I can't say he's underrated because he was an all-pro last year.
Right.
But, you just don't hear a lot about nickel corners all the time. But Taron Johnson is just an incredible player.
Amazing. Well-deserved, too. I mean, when we talked about players of the game after the game against the Colts on offense and defense, I think we both agreed Mac Hollins and Taron Johnson, I believe.
Yeah, that was our game balls.
Yeah, game balls at the end. All right, just real quick. Matt Milano, his practice window has opened.
Yeah. Limited in practice,
we
which
didn't
was a
get
walkthrough
to see him,
Wednesday.
but we will see him as the week progresses.
We'll see him out there in some form or fashion on Thursday here.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how he's doing as he tries to come back from yet another horrible long-term injury that he's dealt with the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can get him back and healthy for the playoffs, and I think overall Dorian Williams has stabilized and has really made some big plays.
Absolutely.
He's still susceptible at times to different things, misdirections, and sometimes in the passing game, that sort of thing. But if you can have him and Milano rolling and Terrell Bernard stays healthy, I mean, think about that Chiefs game last year in the playoffs. They didn't have Bernard.
They didn't have any linebackers.
They didn't have Milano. They didn't have a whole host of people.
Right.
So, I mean, that could be a different outcome too. We'll see.
All right, let's get to it, Andy. Bet MGM, Chiefs at Bills. Bills -2.5 in this one.
I take the Bills to cover that. That means they win
I do too.
in a close game.
I'm taking the Bills winning in this one, over under 46.5. I have gone back and forth on this all day. Part of me sees a really low scoring game in this one. Like, I don't think this is Chiefs-Rams from a few years ago.
No, that
where
was
they
amazing.
lit it up. But,
Yeah.
that was one of the games on the list of, the 8 or more wins in Week 11.
Right. Man, that's tough because if it's like 27-24, that hits the over, but
That's what my score is.
right. Well, there you go. I would lean towards more like 24-20.
Okay.
And so that's under, but the Bills still cover
Okay.
in my mind.
Fair enough. That's
Yep.
the final there. 3-0 before we go. Colts going back to Anthony Richardson.
They should a week too late.
Such a such a weird situation in there. Stevie Johnson and I were talking about it when he got benched after pulling himself out of a game like he's an offensive lineman who needs to get a drink of water, that it was just so bizarre. But I guess the question is, by pulling him and sitting him for a few games, good for him to learn a lesson, or bad that you kind of screwed with him a little bit by benching him? What do you think?
I think after Flacco's poor performance the previous week, they should have went back to Richardson against the Colts. They certainly, after Flacco is intercepted on the first two series of the game against the Bills,
Right.
pulled him and went back to Richardson.
I legit, Andy, while I was watching the game at my desk, was like, you got to get Richardson in there.
Now, Flacco did some nice things. He settled down a little bit, but he's a statue back there. For whatever reason, he had some magic with the Browns last season. That magic ran out in Indianapolis. So I understand they're trying to make a playoff push and that maybe Richardson was not playing very well, which he wasn't passing-wise. His passing efficiency has been horrible this season. And maybe taking a step back, they say, like, hockey guys, we're gonna sit you a couple games and let you watch from the press box and get a different feel for that, right?
Right.
Maybe that helps him. I would think you just got to let the guy figure it out. Let him play. If you're a playoff team, you'll get it figured out. That's kind of how they screwed around with Tua with Fitz a few years ago.
Right.
And that screwed Tua up. You heard him talk about how that messed him up with Brian Flores was still there.
Remember that? Like, they take him out late in the game
Yeah.
and put Fitz in?
Right. Like, that's not the way you help a guy. And then McDaniel came in and was like, I have all the confidence in the world in you. Go do it, dude.
Right.
Imagine that. When someone believes in you, how that helps.
I get to this, Andy, on the bubble. I'm looking at this right now. The Colts are sitting at 8 right now. I'm wondering, I got the Colts, Bengals, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots, Browns, Titans, blah, 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 blah. Anyone outside, like, I don't see any of these teams that are outside looking in, getting in.
Cincy. I think they can make a push. They're playing pretty well. Burrow is...
Who comes out? The Broncos?
Yeah, they could fall. I mean, who knows about a rookie quarterback and Bo Nix? I mean, you could see them take a tumble. I like the Broncos a little bit, but I mean, who's to say? I mean, they're only a game back of the.
Like I know it's this time,
and Miami is still technically in it,
right? Like I was watching or reading something from New England saying they're technically. I mean, everyone's still technically in
right.
it, but
so Miami would have to win. Right.
I mean, Miami has 6 losses. So do the Colts. So do the Bengals.
Do you think someone gets in at 9-8? Possibly.
Right.
But it would not surprise me if the Bengals. The Bengals do this all the time. They're horrible in the beginning of seasons. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
They're terrible in the beginning of the season. I think if the Bengals can get in, they're really dangerous because Burrow is playing at an MVP level. Right now, the AFC's quarterbacks are who they thought they were.
Steelers
are who we thought they were.
Steelers at 7-2. That just drives me nuts.
Yeah, we didn't fully get into that conversation. I still think I'm not going to say they're frauds, but they're not that good. They play this way all the time. They don't finish in those big games.
I don't have their schedule up, but
let's hear. I'll get you.
Like, do they still have the Ravens twice?
They play the Ravens this week. Huge game.
That's right.
At the Browns, at the Bengals, home for the Browns, at the Eagles, at the Ravens, home for the Chiefs, home for the Bengals.
That's
they're winning. They're losing like 4 of those probably. They'll still make the playoffs.
Right.
But
that's interesting.
Yeah, they've got a tough stretch. Ravens twice, Bengals twice, Chiefs and Eagles in that stretch, plus the Browns. I mean, dude, that's a tough schedule.
That might be just one win if things go right. Right or wrong, depending on who you are. All right, before we go, I'm kind of done with the what you watch and stuff.
Because I don't watch anything. It's not interesting.
And I don't pay attention to what I'm watching half the time.
Real quick on the what you're watching, me and my son went to WWE SmackDown last Friday at KeyBank Center.
That's right, you did.
Awesome show. He loved it. He's 6. He loves Cody Rhodes. He actually fell asleep for the final segment, which was the Bloodline and Roman Reigns segment. And I knew that Cody Rhodes was going to come back out and do what they call a dark match, which is show goes off the air. They give the fans in the arena one more match. So I knew that was coming, and I had to wake the little guy up. I'm like, dude, it's Cody. It's Cody. And he's giving me the zombie, right? Like drunk, I'm going to pass out again. I had to move him from one seat to another. The seat next to me was open because people had started to leave. And finally he pops up, and as soon as he kind of really opens his eyes and he's conscious, Cody Rhodes' music hits, and he's like,
awesome.
Yeah! It was awesome. So shout out to WWE. That was a great show. That's what I was watching.
That is awesome. That is an awesome story. I saw your pictures on social media.
Yep.
And said, oh, I guess wrestling's in town, because I had no clue.
Yeah. WWE's getting hot again.
Oh, no, an error on my computer. Okay, one of the things have you tried? I always bring up food, Andy. I love food.
I have no problem with that, as anyone's looking at me right now.
Arby's right now, Thanksgiving theme, the Gobbler is out.
What is that?
So it's a deep-fried turkey sandwich, but it's like sliced, like you would slice deep-fried turkey on a brioche bun with lettuce, tomato, Swiss cheese, and some weird zesty sauce. It is one of the best sandwiches I've ever had in my life.
Not just fast food sandwiches? Like
not just
anywhere.
So good. I got it Sunday night after the Bills game, and I went back Monday and got it on Monday because it shocked me with how good it was.
Okay.
And I'll tell you right now, I don't work for Arby's. I have no connection to Arby's.
But someday.
As far as fast food goes, Arby's just hits it out of the park whenever they do something special like that.
I love Arby's. It probably is my favorite fast food.
Their cheeseburger.
I haven't had it.
It's Wagyu beef cheeseburger. They cook it. I don't know how they do it because it's fast food, but when you bite into it, it's medium. It's not like McDonald's or Burger King where it's a cooked burger.
Right.
Tastes like you're getting a burger that you ordered at
a sit-down joint.
Right.
Okay. Dude, you don't have to ask me twice. My wife, I go to Arby's fairly frequently of the fast food places when I do go there. And she's always like, you went to Arby's? Like, the bag will be either in the trash or in my car.
Smells like an Arby's night.
Right. And my son goes, we have the meats. So, but I love Arby's. And she's like, Arby's, it's just, I'm like, Arby's is really good. Everything they do is good. Their chicken sandwich, all the classic stuff, the French dip, those market fresh sandwiches. I love Arby's.
Big potato wedges they had at one point.
Oh, the potato cakes.
Potato cakes.
Which are like juiced up McDonald's hash browns. And they're great. Yeah. They brought them back.
Yep.
They're delicious. I got to try the Gobbler. Thanks, K-Man.
We do know the guy who runs the Arby's restaurants in Buffalo, too. So if he's listening...
send us some Arby's sauce.
Come on, Tony. That's right. You know I keep Arby's sauce at my house to put on everything. All right. 4:25 kickoff. Bills, Chiefs from Highmark Stadium coming up. Again, only game going on in that window, so it's viewed as a primetime game.
Standalone game. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We'll have the Buffalo End Zone post-game show. Myself, I'll be in the locker room. And in the post-game press conference room, we'll have reaction from Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, all the players. You'll be here in studio.
Stevie Johnson will be with us, who has a clean connection now for the post-game show.
Right.
Really crisp. We've had issues with audio and video on the post-game show with Fred and Stevie, but I think Stevie is all set.
Yeah, so that's going to be rocking. Before we go, make sure you like, subscribe, all those good things. Send us a comment, shoot us a text, email, whatever. Buffalo End Zone Podcast, man. We're cooking.
Yep, that's right. As always, everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on Sunday.